Ever had a conversation where you made a bold statement, then paused, tilted your head, and said, "On second thought"? Welcome to On Second Thought with Erick, Richey, and Bish Bates, where hot takes meet humble pivots, where leadership, life, and current events collide, and where it's perfectly fine to change your mind, out loud. Whether it's marriage, manhood, or the madness in the media, Erick and Bish bring humor, heart, and a little healthy debate, because wisdom lives on the other side of, "Wait, let me rethink that." This is On Second Thought. Press play and be ready to pause.
All right. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How you been? It's been a couple of weeks, man. You've been busy traveler.
Yeah, you basic stuff, not anything
Holiday stuff.
crazy. Yeah, holiday, post-holiday, that sort of stuff. So yeah, it has been bad. I know you've probably had a pretty rough time of it recently. I see you're not wearing any Cowboy stuff. I know they're not playing
Well, I
today.
mean, there's no Cowboys. There's no Cowboys game today.
Well, there
There's
really
no
wasn't really
Cowboys
a
game
Cowboys
today,
game
but
earlier
I
either.
mean,
You know what I'm saying? So at least not defensively.
I know. It's like watching the Ravens, right? It's just disappointing time after time.
Yes.
They give you hope, and then they take it away. There's a show I started watching because I just got Apple TV recently called Ted Lasso, and they said it's
Oh,
the
okay.
hope
Yeah.
that kills you. It's the
It
hope
says the
that
hope
kills,
that killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what the Cowboys do. They always like take you in a little bit and then like yank that rug out from under you.
Right. Yeah.
So they're capable. They have all the components, they just don't seem to know how to put together when they need to. Now the rest of the season, if they win out, that's great, but they're
But
playing
the,
all losing teams.
yeah, but
And
yeah,
you
they
have to
have they
hope
have
that
to run
the
the table, right,
Eagles,
in order to
right.
to make it to the yeah.
And you
So
have to hope that the Eagles continue to fall as they have the last,
right.
couple of games. But the Cowboys beat the Eagles and they beat KC.
Well,
So
I don't know how much of a feather in your cap it is to be Kansas City right now because they're just they're not the Kansas City of old, right?
yeah,
So I don't know that I would taunt that, but yeah, I understand. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I'm hoping. Listen, today's game is going to be big for us because it's a divisional game, and so I'm hopeful that we take this. I don't even remember if we're playing. I don't know who the other division leader is, but right now the two division leaders for AFC North are both 6-6. It's us and somebody else. It's
Isn't that
terrible.
terrible?
It's
That's
terrible,
terrible. You can
man.
be
So
six anything and be a leader
yeah,
of
yeah,
anything, and have
yeah,
confidence. So yeah.
yeah. All right. So I see you pulled out at least your Cowboys cup. What do you have in your
Mm.
cup today, sir?
This was a gift from my new boss actually at
New boss giving you gifts. Okay, that's
yeah,
good.
for my birthday. He got it for me a day early of my birthday, but yeah, it was nice of him. So what do I have in that hat? I have, I guess, basically an espresso martini in a cup. So I have definitely a espresso coffee with a little bit of Kahlua and pumpkin spice liqueur. What
Okay,
about
very
you?
nice.
What do you got going on?
I have a what the hell is this called? A cinnamon toast crunch. So,
Oh, you like this, and I see you got
hmm
a grande this time.
I put it in a different cup. I did. I did. I actually ended up
That
shaking it and doing a bunch of stuff
That's
with it, but
that's what we use for our sangria cups. We do have those as well. So nice.
so I have no idea what cups are supposed to be used for what. Terica has a better
Yeah,
idea than me. So we have
yeah.
margarita glasses, so we definitely use that. Martini glasses, she definitely use. I will put it all in a
You don't
tumbler.
care.
I could care
Yeah.
less, man.
That's how I am
No.
with red wine. If it's like a Chianti or something, table wine, I'll put it in I'll put it in a glass like this. I don't care,
Yeah,
but my wife wants to have it in a nice wine glass.
yeah, it's all about the presentation. Yeah,
Hmm.
some people care about looks and others don't. That's just the way that it is.
So how was your holiday, man? Did you have a good time? Yes, Thanksgiving was a recent one. So,
Yeah, it was good. It was low key. It was probably the smallest one we've held or been to ever, well, as long as I can remember. It was just me, Terica, my mom, and our daughter. And our granddaughter wasn't there, son wasn't there, so it was just the four of us. And then that was it. So
oh
Terica's parents
wow.
had some situation they were dealing with. So they were supposed to go down to the farm, but they didn't go down to the farm this year. They were local, but they weren't able to come to us. And so yeah, it was very, very low key, man. How about you?
Where's your daughter and grandchild?
No, no, daughter was there. Grandchild
Oh,
has to split time between the father and her. So this
oh,
was the
makes
father's
sense.
holiday.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
So
Mine
yeah.
mine was good. I smoked my first turkey on the green
Mm,
egg, and I was super nervous because, the turkey is the center of the meal, and you mess that up, you mess up the whole meal. I'm ordering pizza or Chinese. So
right.
it turned out really well. I was really happy. I had my mom and stepdad over, and my wife's daughter came in, so my stepdaughter came in town from Florida, so we had a full table, and my boys were here, so it was a nice time, and then we had to split that time to take the boys over to their mom. But the
Okay.
meal itself turned out good. Everyone helped and pitched in different areas, and all the food came out at the right time. So,
Nice.
which is always my stressor. Like everything's good until like the last 10 minutes where you're trying to get everything on the table at the right time, but all
Right.
hot, fresh, cut up, sliced up, and all that. So, but I was really proud. My turkey turned out well for a smoked turkey, and the first time trying it, because the first time I ever baked a turkey in the oven, I thought I followed all the rules and everything. And then while I'm halfway through, I'm watching like the Today Show or something, and they're like, "Don't boil your potatoes, bake your potatoes." So I'm like, "Good, I'm gonna throw my potatoes into the oven," but they don't cook at the same temperature when the oven's in there or the turkey's
Mm-hmm.
in there, I guess. So they were all rock hard, and I ended up
Mm.
breaking my smasher, hurting my wrist. The turkey, I cut it open, and blood came out, which means, clearly it's not done yet. So
Right, right, right.
that was the first time I ever baked a turkey. So I was just having like nightmares of that possibly happening. But no, everything turned out really
That's
well.
good because we
I
know
was really
nowadays
happy.
nothing of yours is rock hard. So, I know those are when you talk
That
about
is
rock hard,
true.
those are
But that's
old days.
anyone over 40, man. We all
Now,
have
I
those
don't know. I
issues.
don't
So
know about
yeah,
that, man.
yeah, yeah. No, I do. I do.
I
That's
don't know, man.
I'm just
Maybe
saying.
you,
That's why
I don't know. Maybe
you
we
don't
age
sleep as
differently.
much. So that's why. So
Yeah,
no,
okay. I don't know. Maybe
it's
maybe
all
different parts of
everyone.
us age at different speeds, based on, I
Hmm.
don't know, genetics and,
Hmm.
usage. I don't know. I'm just saying, who knows.
Yeah. No, no,
But
I know. I know you know. So,
yeah. But I
but
but you I will have to drop a picture of the of your turkey because you sent that to me.
yeah,
In the thing. We'll have to show a picture of it because it looked nice. It looked very, very
yeah.
tempting, you know what I'm saying? So it looked
Yeah,
like you did
it
a
was
good job.
good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did things I never did before. I brined a turkey. I've never brined a turkey before. I injected it. I've
Brined is what?
so brine is when you let it soak overnight in like salt, sugar mixture, spices, and everything, and you put it in
Mm,
the fridge and you just let it absorb into the turkey meat itself. For about 24 hours, and then you take it out, you dump all that stuff out, and you dry the turkey, and then I put it in the fridge for 24 hours to just let it dry out a little bit, and then to dry the skin out, and then I injected it with like a butter Cajun,
I know that
concoction.
part.
I've
Yeah.
never done that before either.
Oh, did
It
you
was
like that?
weird to inject it and watch it like plump up, while you're injecting. It was just a weird thing, but no, everything turned out. And then I still seasoned it my old-fashioned way, with I put butter between the skin and the
Oh, that probably was
the
amazing.
meat, and then seasoned everything. And then here was the deal is I saw this video about covering it in duck fat. So I ordered duck fat spray, which
Okay.
adds a whole nother layer of flavor, holds the spices on top. Plus,
Hmm.
instead of basting it the normal way of squeezing the stuff on top of it, you just spray it with this like every hour for 4 hours. And it made it really crispy skin and just great flavor, So
Nice. Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
it turned out really well. But I watched like 3 or 4 videos. I was really worried about, how this was going to turn out. But yeah, thank you. I think it turned out well. So
All right. Well,
yeah.
good. I'm glad
And
it went well.
then yesterday we had, I just started this new company about five months ago,
Hmm.
and we had our big holiday company party.
Hmm.
So that was really, really nice, to meet my people in person and everything, because a lot of people that I manage are on
Wait,
camera.
5 months, 5 weeks.
5 weeks, sorry. Yeah,
I
thank
was
you.
like, whoa,
5 weeks.
whoa, whoa,
Five
whoa.
weeks.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. 5 weeks. Yeah, 5 weeks. It's only been 5 weeks. So, yeah. So I went to that holiday party with my wife, and which is always a little nerve-wracking, because you're meeting other people's spouses, and you have a lot in common with the people you work with, not so much with the spouses.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
kind of a
you hope
weird
hopefully
thing.
not because that could turn
So
into a problem. You have too
well,
much in common with the spouse. You know what I'm
you don't
saying?
even want to know, man. The things that I saw, I was really surprised, So,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but anyhow, because not all spouses showed up, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just a different it's a different thing when you say, and this is my spouse, because we start, you start going down the work conversation, like, has been busy or whatever, and they're just standing there with
Mm-hmm.
the person you're talking to, spouse as well, and they're not really participating. They may be talking
Right.
to the other spouse if they're talkative enough, but it's just an unusual situation, to bring in your spouse to the holiday party, and you hope that everything works out. So there's a little bit of a stressor of, you want them to have a good time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you introduce your friends to other friends that you've known forever, but they've never come together before, like at a
Right.
birthday party or something, and now you're the one having to walk around and say, oh, and this guy also went to Morgan State,
Right. Right.
and they're like, oh, I did. Okay, cool. And then it ends there,
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully, I
like,
mean, I think a lot of times, especially in those work situations, I think it's important to not talk about work. I think if you have the spouses there, then you have to just pivot and really start the conversations on things that the spouses can get involved in. You know what I'm saying? Just general stuff, life, that sort of stuff, as opposed to work stuff, because that automatically sort of excludes them. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough.
It is. It's a challenge. Yeah.
But it's okay. So, how did your wife enjoy
She
it?
enjoyed it. Yeah, she said she really had a good time. I mean, the company that I work for is just amazing. Like the people there are just really all really friendly. There's a culture there that's just very different than a lot of other businesses, and especially
Okay.
as large as it is, as a financial institution. And everyone there is just very open, diverse, and very inclusive. It's a very unusual thing to see these days. When you go to these company things, these
Right.
company functions. Yeah.
Well, good, good, good,
Yeah.
good.
So
And
she
so,
enjoyed herself.
so in general, 5 weeks in, things
Yeah,
going well?
it is. My wife says I'm more stressed than I've ever been, but I mean, you have to remember,
Interesting.
I took 4 months off.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I also, I have what, three new bosses, over
Hmm.
me. I'm starting to learn a whole new department, whole new team. Um, I'm trying to get the buy-in because you can't have accountability without buy-in.
Right.
Like if
Well, you can.
it's
You
tough.
can. I mean, they don't have
It
to
doesn't
agree
go
to it.
well. No, but if they don't know you and they don't believe that you really have their best interest, they're not going to listen to you, no matter how soft you try to deliver the information. And I definitely have seen that I'm a different person than I was even four
Last time you
years
were
ago
there,
when I
right?
left. Oh yeah, oh
Hmm.
yeah. I'm completely after I went out and did this other thing. Um, I'm definitely a different person, and I think that comes with age. You just learn and grow. But
Yeah, if you were the same person you were 4 years ago professionally, then that's a failure on your end,
right,
right? Because
I would
even if you
agree.
were at the same place, you should be different now than you were 4 years ago, because you should be getting better and growing.
Yes.
So yeah, good kudos to you for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have a different feeling. I mean, I already had to have a couple of tough conversations with people, and at the end of the conversations, they're thanking me, which is very different than how it used to be before, which was, just the hammer came down and this was the facts, and you're just not doing it. And I found a different way of delivering the same messages that I used to deliver in the past that would still get results, but they weren't as positive afterwards. The outcome
Hmm.
wasn't always as great. And we do a lot of employee reviews, right? So it's like, how are you engaged with your manager? How are you motivated? And if I'm giving you, challenging feedback, how are you receiving it? And a
Hmm.
lot of it is also, how do I deliver it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Well,
think that's a
I
large
think a
part of
big
it,
part of
right?
it is how you deliver it, right? I mean, that's
Sure.
you know, that's the part you can control. You can't always control exactly how they're going to receive it, but you can influence it a great deal to how you set it up in advance, and then how you actually deliver it. So yeah. So
Yeah.
give me an example of what's the difference between how you would have delivered similar feedback 4 years ago when you were there before versus how you delivered it now.
I think in the past, I used to be just very matter of fact.
Okay.
It was, you failed this. Let's say QA. QA is checking your information,
Hmm.
quality assurance, being sure you're saying all the things legally as you're supposed to say it, and doing all the things you're supposed to do. And it would be a little bit stronger. conversation about how you should know better and this and that. And now the nice
Wow,
thing is,
you should know better.
oh yeah, because
Mm,
we go through so much training. We do CBTs, we do meetings, we do talks, and it was just you're an adult. Why do I need a baby? The conversation. Why do I need a baby? How I'm delivering. You know you're not doing well. You just know you're not. And you had a bad day or whatever the case may be. I don't care. It was very much about you should know better. You should know better. This is not how you do it. Like out of your 20 calls, we shouldn't have a problem with like half of them, situation.
mm,
So and now it's very much about hey, maybe we need to slow down. Can I get you into any sort of training? I think giving them tips, copy and paste is a lot better than trying to type everything in because I make the same mistakes when I type up stuff too
mm.
fast sometimes. Like, I don't know about you, but every time I write from whatever, I always write for whatever reason, my fingers type too fast and it
Right.
irritates the crap out of me. But when you're doing contracts, it's got to be concise, and whatever I can do to help you do that, let's work on that. And I'm really new, like I recognize that I'm new now, whereas before I just felt like I could go in and just do whatever and fix everything because I just had the
Mm,
experience to do it, and you just need to listen to me. And now I'm a little bit more humble, recognizing that I'm learning from you like like you're learning from me.
right.
So what do I need to do to help and assist? And before it wasn't help and assist, it was you need to make these changes.
Mm,
And
mm.
I think that's a large part of um, the difference that I have now than what I had before. Sometimes when you go in a little more arrogant because you're younger and you think you're just right about everything. And as you get older, you realize you know a lot less than you realize.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at something today that talked about, I forget what it was called. It was the something something process, but it was a process. It's described in different ways, but it's the Johari window, version of stuff, which is consciously incompetent. Consciousness and competence. So when you start something, you're unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know, and then at some point, you become consciously incompetent. You don't know stuff, right? And then you
Hmm.
get to conscious competence, which is I know stuff and I know that I know it. And at some point, you know so much you don't really know how much you know, right? Some version of that. This thing
Sure.
talked about it's a Burkhead something. I forget what it was called, but it was a window where it said that early on you are often sort of overconfident and you don't know much, but you don't really know that you know much. And then at some
Yeah.
point you realize it. And then when you actually get to the point where you know a lot, you actually become a little less confident because you recognize that there's so much to know that you can't know it all, right? And so there's a
Right.
humbleness
Yeah.
that comes with, even if you are one of the best, there's a humbleness that often comes with it because you know that there's so much more that you could know, even though nobody else knows it, right? And there may be
Hmm.
only 1% of the population that knows more than you know, or something like that. You are aware of the additional stuff that you need to know, and how much additional things there are to know. Excuse me, so that you actually, even when you're the best of the best, you don't have this unnecessary arrogance because there's still places for you to grow to, right?
Right.
There's still people that are better than you that you can grow to. So it's a weird thing that sometimes when you get to a point of being sort of an expert in something or really good in something, you still don't necessarily take on that I know it all attitude because you still recognize, you know what? I know enough to know I don't know it all. Even though I'm really good at it, I still know I don't know it all.
Yeah.
And sometimes that the level of confidence never peaks back up to the place where you just were stupid and had no idea what you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it was interesting. I was watching a video on that today. So yeah.
It's funny because I was just watching an interview today with Ethan Hawke, and he was in Dead Poet Society as an 18-year-old.
Okay. Okay. So he was like one of the students or something because I know that
Yeah,
was with
he was one of
Robin
the
Robin
students, Robin Williams. Yeah,
Williams and I think
yeah.
somebody else, right?
So
But at least Robin Williams. Yeah.
so Robin Williams and Ethan Hawke were in there, and a bunch of people. It was huge. I mean, a lot of people got awards for that, and then he went from there to Broadway. Ethan Hawke did as an 18-year-old, and you go in with this arrogance that I just know it all. I was in this awesome movie. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to start turning down roles because I think I'm so amazing. And you have this. confidence as a teenager and as a kid. I'm going to say anyone under, 35 and under, you have this confidence that you got into these positions because you're just good.
Hmm.
And somehow you don't realize that you got into those situations out of luck. A lot of times it is just luck, Like I was a manager way before I was ready to be a manager. I didn't know any
Right.
better. I mean, I was probably in my mid-20s the first time, someone put me in charge of other people foolishly, and in my 30s as it continued, and no idea what I was doing, pissing people off left and right, didn't know how to
Hmm.
communicate. And, I had a college degree in HR, and that didn't prepare me for anything other than what I could legally say and not say, outside of that, no clue, and this time I went for position above the level that I landed. I interviewed for a position above what I landed.
Right.
And
You're
I,
talking about
I
the current
remember
company, the one you've been 5 weeks.
my
Okay.
current company, yeah, yeah. And this is after coming out as a COO, right? Yeah, I was a COO for 2 years, 2.5 years at a
Hmm.
company running all levels of the business, growing it rather successfully, I would say as well. And I went into this company at the same level I left at.
Mm.
And a part of me when I was younger would be really pissed. Like I shouldn't be coming in at this level. This is ridiculous. I need to be coming in at a much higher level, at least one or
Are
two
you are
levels
you suggesting that
above
you
me.
didn't have any amount of disappointment or upset or being upset this time? You
No,
were okay.
I
Either what level you were okay with. Okay. All right. That's
I
good.
was okay, and I meant it. Usually it's BS. You say like, "Hey, I'm a team player. I can come in at whatever level. I just want to get into the company and prove myself," and then you come in angry, and
Mm.
that's what a lot of people do.
Chip on
Like
your shoulder, right?
chip on your shoulder.
I'm better
You're
than this.
frustrated. Yeah, like, are you kidding me? I don't know more than my boss. My boss is a kid. So, um, but in this case, I see what my boss is doing, and I see that I've been out of corporate America for
Hmm.
3 years or so, and I wouldn't want to do what he's doing right now. I would have to learn. I would
Mm.
definitely, if I went in his role, I would be behind. I'd be behind the eight ball. I'd
Mm.
be stressed. I'd be working 12-hour days plus trying to catch up and make up for what I don't know and what I don't
Right.
remember. And I'm very content running my team, working with them to get better, working with them to understand, the business, and I'd be fine not being promoted for a while or
Mm.
promoted at all. Whereas before I was hungry, like 6 months a year. Why am I not getting moved up? What's going
Right.
on? So
Interesting. Okay.
so it is a different perspective that I have that you don't get until you have age. I
Yeah.
think that's just something that you don't get into, and maybe it's not age, maybe it's just maturity. Maybe if I was a little more mature in the 30s, I wouldn't have made the mistakes that I did, and I would have been more open to some feedback and some recognition, understanding.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm in a much better place now than I would have been before.
That's nice. And I think I don't know. I think sometimes when you're young, you do have this sort of air of entitlement, and you think that you deserve to sort of move forward, and you sort of you stumble your way forward a lot of times. You talked about luck, but you sort of stumble your way forward, stumble your way up, and I think you're right that as you get older, you one see what bad leadership looks like, you see what bad managers look like, and you don't want to be that. Right. And
Right.
so you often want to say, I want to make sure that I'm ready to do something well versus being so fast that I stumble into it. The truth is, it's probably a balance between the two, right? Because I was having a conversation with my boss recently, and we were talking sort of about what the future looked like. And I told him, I was like, at some point, I would like your job. I know there are other people who are also going to want your job, right? But I'm going to want your job. And he's 3 years or so away from retirement. And so I wasn't talking about I want your job now. I was talking about I want to put myself in position to get your job. And he started talking about like other jobs. He was like, you could be the chief learning officer for this agency, and I was like, whoa, hey, whoa, time out, buddy, whoa, Tonto, right? I was like, that's not, bro.
That's
I
what we're
feel
talking
confident
about.
I can do your job. I don't know about them other jobs, Joker, man. I want your job. And one of the things he said to me was, so I'm similar, right? I want to be prepared, right? I,
Yeah.
I don't want to I don't want to set myself up for failure. I want to set myself up for success. And one of the things he said to me was, he was like, listen, most of the time when you go into something new, you're not going to know it all. You are going to have to learn and to struggle and to get better. And so if you wait until you feel like you're fully prepared, you often will have missed your ideal window to move up. Because when you're moving up, lateral is different, but when you're moving up, oftentimes you're going to not know everything before you move up. That's just the reality of it. And you're probably not going to feel completely prepared. If you're being objective, right? You're probably not going to feel completely prepared for it. But those are the sort of things that you have to do anyway. And so I think for us, right, we're a little older. You know, you have a lot of gray hairs. I shave off my gray hairs most of the time, but if they come in, you can see them. But I think for sometimes the older folks, we don't have that blind ambition. We don't have that, that careless, attitude towards, moving forward because we know it matters. We know the weight of those positions and the impact that it has on people. But I think we also can learn, even in our advanced experience age, that we're still not going to know everything as we move forward. We're probably going to take the next position. If it's the right timing, we're probably going to take it when we don't feel completely ready for it. We feel mostly ready for it, kind of ready for it, but maybe not like completely ready. And I think that's probably okay. It depends on the situation, but I think that's probably okay. So that's something that you and I, or folks like us in our especially in our age bracket, I think can recognize, is that sometimes you do sort of throttle back a little bit. And I think that there's an opportunity to not be quite so cautious about it, while not setting ourselves up for failure.
I think you touched on a couple of things. One is there's a difference between we think we should be ready to get promoted because we were younger and hungrier versus when someone else thinks we're ready to be promoted and they see something in us. And I think it was Branson, the head of Virgin everything.
Okay, that dude. Richard Branson.
Richard, who said, he said, if someone offers you a job that you think you're not ready for, you take it and you learn it. You don't turn it down and say, I don't think I'm ready for it. Now, the fear, of course, is the Peter principle kicks in.
Yep, absolutely.
And we reach our highest level of incompetence, and I think we're all a little bit scared of that.
I think younger people are often not, but I think
they're not aware of it, but then they fail, and then they don't know why they got fired and why they are always getting sat down and spoken to because, you put me in this position. What's the problem? And it's like, well, I put you in the position before you were ready for it. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to grow into it. You didn't take the opportunity to grow. You just thought you were good. And luck, and that doesn't happen. It's work. It's funny, the harder you work, the luckier you become. But a lot of people just think it should be handed to them. I know I deal with that even with my current team. If I change their role in the slightest and I say, hey, you're going to take on more responsibility that usually other people do that may be a level higher than you, then they're like, well, then what's my title?
Wow.
What's my title? How much should I get paid then? And that's their immediate thought. And they think there's nothing wrong with it because at one point, you and I probably thought the same thing. If I'm taking on more responsibilities and doing more things, then obviously I'm going to get promoted, right? You're going to give me more money. I'm going to, because no one ever just takes on something and thinks that there's nothing to it.
Well, sometimes it's in the future, right? So for example, I spent a lot of time in academics, right? At Johns Hopkins. And that was a space where oftentimes you were given responsibilities without giving a title, with the understanding that the title would likely follow. And sometimes, and it was in academic medicine. I'm not a physician, but it was in academic medicine. And one of the things that happens oftentimes is you sometimes get a little bit of money, but oftentimes you get sort of protected time. So it doesn't come in sort of these straight line ways that you think they do. Sometimes it's these things, and you end up accumulating titles. Right, you could be at the same level. You just accumulate titles and titles and titles, and then eventually that turns into a formal promotion. You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting that I've seen it done a bunch of different ways. I will tell you that in the federal space, it very much is closer to what you just talked about, which is surprising to me actually that you mentioned it, because I thought that was going to be sort of unique to the federal space, because my last foray into the private sector was in academic medicine. And so it was in that place where people understood that sometimes you got asked to do things, but that the pay came out on the back end. Whereas here, people do exactly what you're talking about. What am I getting? How am I not getting rewarded for this right now before I do it, as opposed to doing it, proving that you can do it, showing it, and then having some amount of faith. It does take about some amount of faith that the reward, whether it's promotion, money, whatever the case is, will come on the back end. So it's just interesting to me, you know.
I mean, when I was a kid, and I'm talking about my teenage years, I remember
80
saying
years ago, gotcha.
okay, in the ADs, let's just say, so my boss came to me one time and said, I need you to work harder if you want to make more money. And I said, well, if you pay me more, I'll work harder, which is the worst answer you can ever give your boss, right? Like I'd be working harder if I was paid more, and you don't realize until you're older how stupid that sounds.
Right.
And you should realize how stupid that sounds as you get older. But again, I'm dealing with adults. And adults sometimes still feel that way because maybe they didn't have a job younger. Maybe they didn't have that realization that kicked in that said, if I work harder, I'll be rewarded for working harder.
Right.
They feel like I'll reward you as a company to work harder if you pay me more. And I have to see that you're able to do this before I pay you more. And it's a balance. It's definitely a fine balancing act because as a company, we will take advantage. 100%.
That's the thing. That's what I was about to say is that they may have been burnt before, right?
Yes,
they may have been
yes,
burnt. And so it's not just a function of that's their philosophy, but they may have said, somebody told me that exact thing before and I did it and then nothing happened or they BS'd me or whatever the case is, right?
And a lot of companies will do that. 100%.
Right,
that is a real thing that we will push you and try to milk as much out of you as we can as a business because we're trying to be as lean as possible, right? We're trying to get the most of our employees that we can, you know, and we want it to be to the benefit of the company, but we should also make it to the benefit of the employee. And what frustrates me the most is when I see these positions that let's say you, hey, Bish, we want to see you act as your manager because they left. We want you to take over their role for a little while and manage these other groups or whatever organizations, but we're going to keep you at your same level to see that you can actually do it for a period of time. Now, what that period of time is, I don't know. Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? What's fair for you to show that you know what you're doing before they actually give you the title and the pay that comes along with it? Because right now it's just a trial period. We're trying to see if we can stretch you into that role or if we need to bring somebody else in. And we're going to milk it as long as we can as a company until we can't. And you get frustrated or try to go to another department or another area because you're going to say you were doing this thing. You're going to say you were doing this thing even though you didn't have the title and you didn't have the pay to go with it. And how long can you stay motivated doing that?
Well, and I think I agree, but part of it comes down to communication, right? And I say that meaning that that you can present that to somebody to say, hey, we need you to do this. We want to see if you're capable, right? And if you're the person asking them to do that and they have any hesitation, it's upon you as a person asking them to give them a glimpse into what that looks like, right? You know, you can say no. You have every right to say no. And then know that we're definitely going to be looking, you know, we're going to be sort of exploring options. You can say yes, though, and what you do is you give yourself an opportunity, right, to show that you can do it. And if you are in the position and you've shown that you can do it well, who do you think is going to likely be a really strong shoe-in for that position? I'm not saying guaranteed, but a strong shoe-in, right? So you can decide that you want to put yourself in that position to be a shoe-in for it, or you want to wait. I don't know.
How long do you put up with that?
Well, so on the front end, when you're proposing it, I don't know that you may know, right? So, for example, in the federal space, there are limitations to how long you can do that stuff for, right? In the current environment,
what do you mean in the federal space? There's limitations, like they
so if you're gonna T-pro somebody, if you're gonna give somebody a temporary promotion, there are time limitations to how long you can give them a temporary promotion for. But that is actually paying them to be in the position.
So you are getting paid without the title.
With the temporary promotion, you're getting the title and the pay, but it's temporary. It's not permanent. You're being placed in the position and being paid.
6 months, a year, how long? What do they say?
90 to 90. I think it's 90 or 120 days at a time with the opportunity to update once. By the way, not my foray, so I probably misquoted something there.
Okay,
but then there's the other.
Around there.
Yeah, the other version is we ask you to do it without pay, the way that you talked about, right? We can't T-pro you. And there are limitations associated with that.
T-Pro.
Temporary promotion, T Pro.
Okay, gotcha.
No,
Okay.
no, no. I appreciate you asking that question, but I thought my apologies. So yeah, so we can't give you a temporary promotion, but we're going to ask you to go ahead and do the job anyway. And then what that does is that gives you the opportunity to show that you can do it, and it gives us an opportunity, right? One, to get the job done, but two, to also see if you're the person for the job, right? And the way I look at it is, if you're thinking short term, then absolutely you should be like, "Where's my money now?" But if you're thinking long term, the long term view of it is, if I do this and I do this well, I'm going to make it extremely hard for them to choose anybody but me. That doesn't mean that they won't choose somebody else, right? And you have to know sort of your the organization that you work within, not just the agency, but the actual organization that you work within, the people that you work for, and how they do things. But you have the opportunity to show them that, right? And so I want people who are willing to take that risk, right? Who are willing to say, I'm going to show you. Give me a chance to fail you, right? Because I'm going to acknowledge that some people may have failed you. Some people may have actually not done the right thing for you in the past. But am I that person who's done that for you? Because if I haven't, and I'm asking you to do this, know that if I tell you, then I'm going to look extremely favorably upon you if you do this and you do it successfully, right? Then they're going to feel good about it. And part of it is you have to be, when I talked about the communication, you have to say that stuff up front, but then during the process, you have to make sure that you're giving them feedback, so that they know exactly how they're performing. Because a lot of times what happens is they get in a position, they don't do well. And what we don't do is tell them the things that they need to do better. And we just decide they're not ready for it. They're not doing a good job. And so now they did it for 6 months, a year, whatever the number is. And what we figured out as a person making the final decision is, we don't want them, but they don't know that. And so when it comes time for that, they feel like, I did all the work. Right, I've seen this a bunch of times. I did all the work. I did,
Yeah.
and I've been like a witness to it, where like a peer of mine was asked to do something. They stepped up. They did it for a period of time. I've heard the boss talk about how poorly they're doing. Damn gummit, sorry. I've heard the boss talk about, nope, wrong one. I've heard the boss talk about how poorly they're doing, right? And yet that person hasn't been given that information, and so they think they're doing well, but they're not. And so
Yeah.
it feels like it was a bait and switch, when in actuality it wasn't. It was just terrible communication, because your supervisor should have been telling. I don't know what's going on with this camera.
Your eyes made it zoom in. You're like, look at my eyes.
Is that I gotta look at all
No,
of the
man.
I was on something earlier and it was zooming in and out, and I could not figure out what the hell was going on, man. But anyway, but your
You're like,
supervisor has to
look at me.
communicate
So,
that stuff to you. They have to tell you that. And that's why I say
yeah.
part of it is communication.
Thank
It's
you.
not just the pre, but it's the during communication, because people need to understand what those options are, or what will happen, and how they're performing. And I think overall, leaders, supervisors, managers overall, on average, do a terrible job at giving people real-time feedback about how they're doing. Right? If there is a gap between how somebody you supervise thinks they're doing and how you think they're doing, as the supervisor, it's a failure on your part. You should have been communicating that. That doesn't mean that sometimes you will communicate it very clearly and they still will sort of be a little bit bullheaded and won't get it. But most of the time, that's not the case. You just didn't communicate it clearly. And part of what we have to do as leaders is make sure that we communicate that frequently and clearly to them, without sort of overwhelming them, right? Because constant feedback can be a little overwhelming at times. You know what I'm saying? So, same if you're married, and every meal you give feedback on what needs to be fixed. At some point, you're like, "Hey, just eat the effing meal, dude, and stop telling me about that this wasn't seasoned." You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's a balance there. But yeah, anyway. So go ahead. I'm sorry, and I'm going
Yeah.
to fix this camera.
No, I mean, I do agree with you, and I've told this to my people. I said, change is inevitable. I mean, I just came on, my boss just came on to this department, and there is going to be change that happened, but I'm going to share with you when we have change,
Right.
because people are always scared of change.
Mm-hmm.
100%, they're always scared of change, but they make changes every day, right? They change their hair, change their car, change their house, change their spouse or their living conditions, whatever the case, but they had control of that change. Now, my job as a leader is to say, here's the change, but here's the why and how it might affect you. And if I communicate that well, you should take it pretty well. And it should be not a surprise. And it should be something that feels comfortable, because I took you down the path where I explained results, the reasoning, and how it
Hmm.
will impact you. Like I made a change this last week, and this was after having one-on-one meetings with all my team. And I asked them, tell me what you do every day. Like tell me how long it takes you to do this task. How long does it take you to do that task? What does your day look like? And I did this for all of my team.
Right.
And when I had to make a change, I said, I am adding this added responsibility onto you. And before you get upset, let me remind you that I met with all of you. And at the most, y'all do maybe 4.5 to 5 hours of work a day, but we're paying you for 8 hours. We're paying you for 8 hours, and you're doing maybe half of that work a day, which you work from home. It gives you a lot of freedom.
Right.
So what I'm adding onto you will be an additional hour and a half, which still gives you a lot of time to get this taken care of. So as much as you want to go into awe and shock that I'm adding this added responsibility onto you, we had discussed that you have plenty of headway to deal with this. So their arguments couldn't be as strong. They're how could you do this? This is okay. Like that was their response. Like they went from this is feeling overwhelming to this is what you told me, right?
Hmm.
So I explained the why behind it. I explained what the impact was going to have on them, and the end result was acceptance, which is what you ultimately want when you're
Now,
adding an added responsibility.
how do you know they accepted it?
So the next day, I checked in with them when the new thing went into effect, the new responsibilities went into effect, and I
Hmm.
said, "How are you feeling today?" And they said it wasn't as bad as we expected it to be. And you were correct. It was within this time range and it was manageable. And that's
And
what
is
you want to hear.
that
Yeah.
what they're saying to each other?
Yes, because
How
they
do
have
you?
their own side chat.
Hmm.
And then they tell me individually, they're like, yeah, we were talking about that this was going to be too much,
Okay,
and this
that's
turned
good.
this turned out to be okay.
There
This
you go.
wasn't
There
as
you go. You
bad
have to have
as we
that
thought.
insight, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes they're going to talk to you as a boss, and you can't control that per se.
And you know
You can
what's funny
influence it.
is
Good.
as I'm talking to them, I go, I see you guys typing. You're trying to make eye contact with me on the camera, but I see you looking down and I know you guys are typing to each other, and that's fine. I want you, I'm just curious, do you feel this is overwhelming? Does this feel at first overwhelming or sorry, does this feel manageable?
Right.
And their responses were this feels manageable and they appreciate where I was coming from with it. There was a little bit of pushback, but we had a conversation again about here's what you said. I looked at your notes. Your notes told me this, and you agreed to it while I was talking to you that
Hmm.
this is it. So for 5 months, you've had it pretty good. Now I'm going to make you work a little bit more. Instead of your full 8 hours, maybe you're working 6.5 to 7 hours, but you're still not working the full 8 hours because there isn't enough work yet for whatever reason.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, so I check in with them. Plus I meet with them every 2 weeks. So I will have follow-up conversations once they get into it for like a week and a half. And I'll find out exactly, I hope to find out how they actually feel about the things, but the feedback so far have been good. Yeah.
Good. 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 Okay.
Yeah. So again, I think that's our job though as leaders is to make the changes that are going to happen less scary and
Hmm.
feel less impactful.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if
more
we're
impactful to the organization, less personally impactful to them. Yes,
correct,
100%.
because all people care about, and I had this conversation with someone else last week, which is all the expression of all politics are local. Like you may not like the president, you may not like Congress, but what impacts you is your local mayor, your local school board. What's happening
Right.
to you and your area. And that's the same thing here, right? It's how does this impact you personally?
Right.
And how do you manage that situation? And that's my job as a leader is to explain the why and take away the impact in a way that's manageable. So I think
Yeah.
that's what good leaders do, though. They try to explain things so you feel less stressed as an employee because That's what you really want. You just want to enjoy your job while you're doing it. It is called work for a reason. It's not always
Right.
fun, but there are things that need to be done, so we want to be sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck as leaders. And as employees, we want to be sure that you're feeling fully engaged and listened to, you know. So,
That's
and
fair.
we have quarterly reviews that will tell us exactly how we are doing as leaders as well, regardless of what they say out of their mouth. It's how these reviews come out to show you exactly how your team is feeling. And we'll find that out next year, early next year.
Oh, the results of those surveys. Okay, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's 100% right, and I do think that it's still new. It's still a little bit nuanced, if no other reason than because uh, people's initial responses and reactions to things are different than long term, and even when they can logically sort of recognize that it makes sense, something makes sense to them, they still sometimes struggle with the real world impact, right? So I'll give you an example. So as a federal employee, right? We had to earlier this year do a return to office, like a full return to office. I think prior to that we were 2 days a week in the office and 3 days a week not in the office, and then we had to go to the point where we were in the office 5 days a week. And then there were flexibilities in the schedule that were taken away that we didn't have those schedule flexibilities. So not only were we in the office, but now we were in the office for very specific periods times during the day that where before we had flexibilities to not necessarily do that, right? And while I can understand, right, while if I put myself in the mindset of the agency head or the department head or the president or OPM, right, I can understand why these things make sense, but they have a real world impact to me as an individual employee, right? So as an individual employee, one, I spent more time doing work for the government before they made me come into the office than after, right? Because it was easy to flex, right? It was easy for me to go, oh, I know I'm supposed to be off at 5, but dude, there's work to do, and I'm going to stay till 6 or 7 or whatever. I'm going to work at 10 o'clock at night, 11. I'm going to hop in my office and do some work because it needs to be done. But when it switched, it became a situation of I was in there. You got 2 hours of commute. I know not everybody's a 2 hour commute, but I have an hour and a half, 2 hour commute in, hour and a half, 2 hour commute back, right? And so now my work is generally limited to the time that I'm sitting in the office, which is less than it was before, right? Because once you spend 1.5 to 2 hours going in, 1.5 to 2 hours coming back. By the time you're back, it's 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. You are beat, right? And your family is asking for your time. They're like, hey, we exist, spend time with us, right? So even though I understood in real time why it was happening, the importance of it, why sometimes managing sort of remote or teleworking employees can be difficult and you're not so sure if you're getting all the value. Like logically, I understood all of that. But what I recognize as an individual employee is they actually get less from me now. Not because I want to give less, because part of what I now give is the commute, right? So I technically give more because instead of giving 8 hours, I'm giving 12 to 13 hours if you include a commute. But I,
Sure.
but they're not getting value from my commute, right? But when I was giving 10 hours on average a day, they were getting 10 hours of value from me versus 8 hours now because now I got to time everything with my commute and get home, and now I have to focus on my family because that's what they need, right? And so I think that's one of the things that people sort of maybe didn't see, right? And I know that there is this idea of, are federal employees sort of working? Are they doing it? Are they being valuable to the American people, right? So I recognize that that's part of the conversation. But for those of us who were really committed to doing the right thing for the American people, who were really committed to doing the right thing for our agencies, didn't need somebody to be over our shoulder to work hard and to provide extremely high value, the unintended consequence, I think, is that you get a little bit less value now because I was committing 10 hours a day when I was working from home, and now I'm committing
Sure.
12 to 13 hours a day. But now instead of the government getting 10 hours of value, they're getting 8 hours because the other 4 to 5 hours of value is in the commute. right? And so,
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I don't mean to interrupt, but to draw on that
but you
point,
interrupted. But I
I
was
know,
good.
but
I was good.
but but it turned out our reviews, which we do quarterly, as I mentioned earlier, turns out that the people that work in the office were more satisfied in their reviews than those that worked from home.
When you
And I
say
think,
explain that.
okay, so I can't explain it, but my thought process after you said that is when they work at home, there's a stress that work more and harder, perhaps, for those that care, than those that work from the office. And when that 5 o'clock bell rings or whatever the case might be, they know they're done.
100%. I work. I
So
spend
they
so
know
much more time. You're right. Yes.
right. So there's a freedom there. Just say, hey, I work from the office, but when I'm done, I go home, and that's it. And when you work from home, you're like, dang, I feel like I need to log in earlier. I need to feel like I'm showing my time and my effort, at home, and maybe that's not always recognized. And to be honest with you, it's probably not because I don't see you hitting the keyboard.
Right.
I don't see you answering your peers' questions
Right.
by turning around and saying, "Hey, here's the answer," or "Here's how to deal with this situation." And when you're working at home, there's more of a stressor to
To
I can't
demonstrate your
get things
value.
done to
Yeah.
demonstrate your value, and I can't take care of the needs of my family. Whereas if I work from the office, I know that when I'm done at 5 or 4 or whatever the case might be, that I know I'm heading home and I have that freedom and it stops. I'm not going home to log onto my computer because my computer's at the office.
Hmm.
So I think and that's at all levels. I don't think that's just at the levels that aren't leadership. I think that's also the levels that know that they're done for the day and that they can show their value there, and they can't show it the same at home. And that's, I think, part of the frustration. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you mentioned that stuff, because you can work more. You feel like you have more access to the company working from home because you can hop on earlier, maybe while
Hmm.
everyone's asleep.
Yep.
Maybe whenever you wake up and you decide, hey, I'm going to get onto the computer, I'm going to start doing my thing. For me, I've always liked going in early. Hate staying late. It always
Hmm.
irks me to stay late because I want to get home to my family.
Right.
I want to deal with dinner, soccer, whatever those responsibilities are. And going in early seems like, okay, it's manageable, and especially on the weeks I don't have the kids, it's even
Right.
more manageable. I'm beating my boss in and everyone else, and I can get started on the day.
Right.
And I go into the office 3 days a week right now. I don't have to go in 5 days, but I wouldn't mind because I know that when I'm done, I'm done. But yeah,
Well, but
it just
but what I would say is that I think that for those, if you're in the national capital region, right, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, commuting is no joke, right? Commuting is
no,
no joke, especially
I
if you're
know.
going into the DC area, right? I've commuted into the Baltimore area, and it's a whole different experience than commuting into the DC area, right?
Yeah,
And so it takes a toll on you, right? It definitely takes a toll on you, and so you end up having to choose, right? When I was working from home and there was more flexibility, I didn't have to choose as much, so I could give a lot to both. When I'm commuting, right? My family's not getting any value from my 4 to 5 hours, well, 3 to 4 hours a day of my commute. They're getting no value. The government's getting nobody's getting any value from that time, right? Nobody, right? I'm trying now to work on, sorry, I'm hitting my mic. I'm trying now to get value from that time and doing some personal stuff, but my family's not getting value. My work is not getting value from that time. Whereas when you were working from home, not only did you have some flexibilities that allowed me to ensure that I was making sure that my job got everything that they need, and I was doing my best to make sure my family got everything that they need, I was getting value from every moment. Now there's moments where I don't get value, right? And
yeah.
and so I think that's the challenge is that when that happens, when you have these times when nobody's getting value, you now have to make very hard choices about the times when you can give value. because now it's less than it used to be. And so I think that's part of the hard part of it is that people felt like a lot of, and I've had these conversations with a lot of my peers, people feel like I actually was able to give more to my job when I was working from home.
Yeah.
Not because I was trying to get over on anybody, because I will tell you that as an individual, I can only speak from my experience, but I will say, I will acknowledge that this is not an abnormal experience based on my conversations with some coworkers, is that I was a little bit paranoid about the minute perception when I was working from home that I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so I took no lunches, right? I was like, if I had to walk away to go to the bathroom, I was like, I need to get back as soon as flipping possible because I don't want anybody to think I'm not working, right? Because it's hard to judge it. So they judge it by if you're online, that sort of stuff. So at the office, bro, like you can, because they know you're there, then it's this weird thing where if you're at home, people are judging your productivity
Yes.
much more closely. When you're in the
Than they
office,
are.
now they're just
Nope.
like, well, you're here,
Yeah.
so people feel the freedom to be a little less productive. Now, don't get me wrong, because there are a lot of times where you could solve an hour, 2 hours worth of email back and forth with a quick conversation because you walk over to somebody's
Sure.
desk, right? So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
efficiencies. That's why I said I recognize the importance of doing some of this stuff, right? There are some efficiencies that were realized by being in the office. But there is also this thing that if somebody's here, if somebody's in the office, right, you're judging their productivity a little bit less because before the only thing you had to judge was their actual productivity.
Sure.
And you got other things. They're in the office, that you're talking, so it's just a weird thing. It's a weird thing, and I don't know that anybody who's on any side of this issue, like, is like has nefarious intent on all of this, right? I don't think that the people who wanted us to come into the office, they're like, yeah, we hate these jokers and we need to make their lives miserable. And I don't think the people that want us to be home are like, yeah, I want to get over on the, like. I don't think either one of those are the reality. I think that both groups have the same goal. They want what's best for the government, what's best for the American people. And I think that part of what's missing is that those groups are so far apart that they're not talking to each other,
Sure.
right? And they're not recognizing that if they talk to each other, they could actually find an amazing compromise that would get the government and the American people exactly what they need, the most productive people, while ensuring that the people that work for the government have balance that allows them to give their best every single day. And I
So the
think we
problem
lost that
is
a little bit.
we as a people say this is how it's always been.
Hmm.
We have a hard time changing that. I mean, in anything, whether it's a social issue or it's a professional issue, we
Right.
just feel that people are more productive when they come to the office because it's always been. We have a building for you, come into the damn building. Come into the building so I can see what you're doing. Even though we've proven for the last, 4 or 5 years that we can be more productive working from home, all the numbers show it. Everything shows it. There was never any loss of productivity when we had to send everyone home during COVID. And to think that you have to make a change because that's how it always has been, no. But I do say I like going into the office. I like meeting with the people. Like you said, you can solve
Absolutely.
a problem a lot
Yeah.
faster. For sure, there are those things because otherwise you're sending emails and like, why isn't this done yet? Like who do I need to loop in? What do I need to do? Versus, hey, I walked over here, now I can walk over there and I can find out an answer, and it's a lot easier, when you're in the office. But depending on where you're going, where's the productivity? And at home, it's not always there. But for certain jobs, it is for sure. And we got to get over the fact of this is how it's always been.
Right.
But when it comes to productivity, I think we've shown time and again in all reviews and all surveys, nothing was lost going home.
Right.
And that, for whatever reason, hasn't been fully recognized, communicated, whatever the case might be. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why you can't be happy working from home, but Again, the reviews are not always great when people just fully work at home because they don't feel engaged, they don't feel
Right.
connected, they don't feel
I
like
think
part
the
of the
hybrid
company.
is the best, man. Honestly, I think
So
the hybrid is the best. Like there are times when
yeah,
you need to be in the office to do these things, and there are times when you don't need to be in the office.
yeah,
Like you
you
know what I'm
don't,
saying?
you don't.
And we have to recognize the human part of this, right? And so, if you want me to give my best, then sometimes people need to feel like you trust me to give my best. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't feel like you trust me to give my best, then sometimes people go, well, then why am I trying so
Why am I
hard?
doing this? Why am I busting
If
my
you if
butt?
you if you don't trust me to give my best, right? So yes, we would love for people to give their best regardless, and I think a lot of people do. But I think some people just go, all right, well, if you're not going to trust me to give my best, then I'm gonna give what I have to give, right? And not give a whole lot more. You know what I'm saying? So,
My team had not had a manager in 6 months or more. And when I came on board, and they recognized I was looking at their work, their productivity increased.
hmm
I think that's just natural, right? When you know that someone's watching your work, your productivity naturally increases,
right,
versus, hey, just do what you need to do. So there is that as well. But um, overall, I say that there's arguments on both sides of it. It's a matter of what people are willing to do, and not everyone works the way that you and I do.
right.
But
In facts, yes, yes. There's some people
so
who are skating. Like I get it.
oh
There's
sure,
some people who are skating, like
hey, if
100%.
I can get by, we're working 4 hours in an 8 hour day, I'm going to do it.
Right,
I'm gonna work those first 4 hours, and then the last I'm gonna be watching Let's Make a Deal and Judge Judy and do my laundry and hang out, whatever I need to do, take a nap. But there's others that know that if you're being watched, they produce a little bit better,
right.
So
There's a balance there, and I think
there
there's
is a
also
balance.
teaching that can happen, right, to help managers who are dealing with this stuff to know how to manage folks both in person and at home, because there are
Yeah,
some best practices that in all of this we didn't ensure that those best practices were known, right,
yeah,
and so people are figuring it out all individually, all on their own, and I think
sure.
that's an opportunity for improvement in all of this.
100%. Well, man, that was a solid hour. I know I have to run because my kid is turning 11, my
Oh,
youngest, and we're going to
congratulations,
thank you. We're going to take him to lunch so he
Elijah,
can see
right?
grandma.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
the E. I
Elijah.
don't know if we're talking
Yeah,
name. E.
Elijah's turning
Uh,
11 next week, but we're celebrating this week because he'll be out at his brother's soccer tournament next weekend. But we're still celebrating it this week while he's here, and we're heading out to a place where he chose. But yeah, we got to be there in a little bit. But
okay.
he's excited, and we're excited to celebrate with him as well. But I think we covered a lot of good stuff today, man. How you feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. It was more business than personal, but I'm down with you 100%.
I
So
mean, it is what it is. This is what I think a lot of people are going through, So I like it, But maybe next week we'll get into the more personal stuff as things progress. But
yeah.
what do you have to say to close out this day?
So I'm going to beat you to the punch and say that I am sponsored by my wonderful wife and
Of course you are.
family. That's right, because I beat you. So if he says that he's sponsored by his wife or he loves his wife, it's only because I said it
Right, because
first.
I don't love my life.
Not me.
My
He
life.
doesn't.
Clearly, that's what that means. That's
No,
what that means,
because
right?
because I've been married for. I mean, I'm gonna be married for 25 times as long as you. So therefore, I clearly must love my wife 20 times as much as you love your wife. That's how the math works. I'm pretty sure of
That's how
that.
the math works.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
of
how it
course,
works. You know what I'm
of
saying? I'm
course.
pretty sure
Yeah,
the data
yeah,
shows that. You know what I'm
of
saying?
course. Yes.
And then I am also sponsored by, I've mentioned my YouTube channel, Leadership Mindset Daily. We've
That's
recently made a
great.
pivot
I
from
like
a
it.
from a faceless channel to a faceful
I don't know
channel.
if I would say that. I don't know
I
if I
don't
would
know
say
because
that, but
the
okay.
problem is the face they're
Don't
going
want
to
to
be
face
full of is this
full.
face right
Nope.
here. So,
Don't want to say that,
but
but okay.
it's all
Yeah.
right. Can I tell you something, Eric? All due respect, I give good face. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, I don't. It
Nope.
doesn't look like I
That's
give good
good. Don't
face,
want to
but I
say that
actually give good
either.
face.
That,
By the way,
yeah.
I heard that on a rap song. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's probably
Hmm.
not appropriate. We're gonna go with it anyway. So anyway, I'm making that pivot
Good, good
from
face.
Leadership Mindset Daily to Elevate with Bish Bates, and so check it out on all the platforms, especially on YouTube. And I think that's what I got. How about you?
Good, man. I am good. I appreciate the love and support of my wife and kids, and
Only because I
things have
said it
been going
first.
well. Yeah, because you said it first, it reminded me that I do love my wife and kids. Otherwise, if you didn't say that, clearly I wouldn't know what I care for. So thank you.
You would not. You would not. All right. Well, look, good to talk to you, man. And we will catch up again next week. Take care.
Sounds good, man. Take
All
care.
right. Bye.
You've been listening to On Second Thought with Erick, Richey, and Bish Bates, where it's never too late to rethink, rewind, and revisit the conversation. If you laughed, learned, or had your own On Second Thought moment, go ahead and subscribe, share, and leave us a review. We want to hear your thoughts, even if you change them later. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at On Second Thought Show and join the conversation. Until next time, keep thinking, keep growing, and don't be afraid to say, you know what? On second thought,